Space games have a problem. They've all been in a bit of a loop for years now. The same names keep coming up: Elite Dangerous, No Man's Sky, Star Citizen, even when you're not playing them anymore. So today we're going to do something a little different. This video is all about what's next. Space games that are actually aiming for a 2026 release. This time then, there's going to be no long-running regulars we've all been playing for years. Instead, just new releases that might finally shake things up. So here's what could well be the best space games of 2026. Let's start with the first one. In the Black is a realistic space combat simulator from Impeller Studios. It's set around 200 years in the future, and you fly as a private military contractor hired by megacorporations to fight shadow wars over resources. Now, the game has three major modes. These are Bloodsport, which is a corporate competitive arena with Assault, Conquest and Team Deathmatch. And these support up to 5v5 fights. Then we've got Contract mode, which offers single-player missions such as a Debris Sweep, Drone Sweep, Interdiction, Raid, Recon, Search and Destroy, Ship Strike and a Station Defense. And then there's Simulator mode, which covers tutorials like basic flight combat, as well as challenges such as free flight, instant action and proving grounds. Now, battles take place in locations including Mars and the asteroid belt, as well as Saturn, Titan and Enceladus. Ships themselves are nuclear-powered fighters, and these are divided into classes such as the Shrike, the Colibri, the Araeus, the Hyperion and Pegasus. Each of these have multiple variants as well. Weapons include lasers, missiles, cannons and railguns, and the ship frame editor lets you customize loadouts. As you can imagine, the game is going to be heavily combat-focused, and this is going to be a lot of fun for people who love realism in their space-focused combat. Starminer focuses on the industrial side of space, and it puts you in charge of a massive mining operation. It's developed by a two-person team under the Paradox Arc label, and it's about building fleets that can chew through asteroids and then defend those assets when the hostile forces inevitably show up. Now, you fly and manage ships that can weigh upwards of 150,000 tons, and piloting them is using physics-driven controls whilst processing mined ore into parts for expanding your fleet. The game itself has a variety of different modes, which includes a campaign, survival challenges, as well as of course an open sandbox. Ultimately, the game appears to be about encouraging experimentation with different fleet designs, and that means that some people might prefer swarms of smaller vessels, whilst others look for a few heavily armed behemoths. I really do feel that this one has a lot of potential if it's executed right. So that's a look at the grounded combat industrial side of space. There's plenty more of that to come further in the video, but we've also got some big story-driven games and a couple of very strange ones as well. First though, we're going smaller scale and much more dangerous. Short runs where one bad decision can end everything in a few seconds. Now, NTL, No Time Left, is very much about real-time tactical roguelike, and it's heavily influenced by FTL, Faster Than Light. That means that as you're flying through on your spaceship, each run represents a separate attempt to push deeper into the mystery, with each death wiping the slate clean, but leaving you with a bit of experience from the previous time round. Now, events in the game are generated around your ship's configuration, so the choices you make in outfitting your vessel directly influence what you run into. Combat, meanwhile, uses real-time action with pause. You control the power allocation across ship systems like shields, weapons and drones, and these allow you to shift resources as situations change. Ships themselves move according to a dampened velocity and Newtonian physics, and this allows for 360-degree maneuvers. Drones can be deployed for repairs or attacks, and salvaged equipment can also be bartered or used as upgrades, and therefore alter how your ship performs. There's also a variety of different hulls and modules. All of these different setups create distinct different playstyles, and yeah, apparently you can also swap out modules mid-jump, and this allows you to adapt on the fly. Ultimately then, this looks like a really big evolution of FTL, Faster Than Light, bringing it very much up to some pretty interesting standards, both in terms of graphics as well as gameplay. Now, 14 Overmind is a cosmic survival game for PC that starts at the end of the world. A black hole appears in Earth's orbit, unleashing a surge of anomalous energy that destroys the planet. You wake up as an engineer aboard the derelict miner, drifting amid the wreckage with no memory of who you are or how you survived. Now from there, the story unfolds as you slowly piece together what happened, explore a universe twisted by 5-dimensional anomalies, and try to build something that can endure in the middle of all of this chaos. The core gameplay here is about engineering your way out of oblivion. You turn the abandoned base into a functional refuge using futuristic technology and harvest rare resources from distorted zones and using them to craft tools that can manipulate the hostile environment you find yourself in. Open world locations feature different biomes and terrain hazards as we'd expect from a game of this type, and each of these with its own mechanics and anomalies. Shipbuilding is also a thing here, with some information suggested that there's going to be some detailed control over the ships. It's all very nice things for those of us who love flying spaceships. Moving on, we come to Directive 8020. This is Supermassive Games' take on the deep space horror. It's set aboard the colony ship Cassiopeia. Here, humanity has sent the vessel 12 light years from a dying Earth to secure a future on the exoplanet Tau Ceti F. But the mission goes catastrophically wrong because of course it does. Now the ship crash lands and the survivors discover a shape-shifting alien organism that mimics its prey. Naturally, with this type of alien set amongst the crew, it absolutely ruins any form of trust and it turns all the crewmates against each other because anyone is a potential imposter. The gameplay itself follows Supermassive's familiar formula. Anyone who's played any of their games by now will be quite familiar with it, and this is a cinematic survival horror driven by a player choice. You find yourself moving through the dark corridors, trying to evade that alien, and effectively relying on improvised weapons and stealth. Now, conversations and decisions with other crew members will definitely affect things, and they'll shape who trusts whom, who lives, who might be a mimic in disguise, and well, the general premise of threat everywhere. The game also features what the developers call a turning point system, and this lets you rewind along the story tree to redo key choices. That allows you to discover alternative routes, and apparently should allow you to unlock multiple endings as well. For anyone who likes space-themed horror, this is certainly one to keep an eye on. That's one side of space then, danger and a lot of risk and all that great stuff. Next up, we're back to starships, but this time with proper building, crafting, and a whole new galaxy to rebuild. Let's talk about SpaceCraft. Now, SpaceCraft is an online multiplayer exploration game from Shiro Games. It's set in the year 2350 after humanity flees a devastating war against tripod invaders. The last surviving fleet stumbles through a hidden porthole into an unknown galaxy, and that's where you start rebuilding. You pilot ships through new star systems, asteroid belts and derelict wrecks, always balancing the urge to explore with the danger of pirates and other threats. So this is very much about being set in space in many ways, but also down on the planets as well. And that's where the game mixes exploration, mining, automation and combat. So you can scan for planets to find resources, extract them using tools and feed those materials into a production chain that lets you craft new parts and assemble ships, either from blueprints or from your own designs. Now, outposts can be automated with drones and cargo haulers, building up logistic networks that remove resources and energy where they're needed. Combat happens in phases, first detecting the targets on radar and then marking them for you to pursue down. The economy of the game is also set to be a pretty big thing, with stations forming dynamic markets with supply and demand, all shifting prices, and the corporations allow groups of players to organise into roles across different mining, defensive and research arenas. If all goes to plan then, this one looks to be a nice blend of space-based action as well as base building and economic trading. This title needs no introduction, many of you will be well aware of it by now, and in all honesty it is long overdue. Squadron 42 then comes from CIG, and it's a single-player cinematic campaign set in the Star Citizen universe. All signs point to this being released in 2026, although some people will only probably believe this when they finally see it. In the game, you take on the role of a rookie pilot in the United Empire of Earth Navy. You're thrown into a sequence of missions that span everything from single small-scale dogfights to larger planetary operations. The story itself follows the classic arc from untested recruit to a seasoned veteran, and it's set against the backdrop of Star Citizen's various different factions, alien species, and frontier conflicts. Now, gameplay combines higher-end spaceships here, a lot of lovely-looking spaceships, a lot of combat as well, of course, both on FPS terms as well as in ships, and that means you'll find the gameplay will switch between cockpit action as well as ground-based assaults and anything in between. Now the game quite naturally leans into a lot of cinematic action here. Most of this has been motion captured, and it features a lot of well-known actors such as Mark Hamill, Gary Oldman, Gillian Anderson, Mark Strong, and numerous others. It's also worth pointing out that the release of Squadron 42 will mark just the first chapter in a multi-chapter release. Next up is Exodus. This is a third-person sci-fi action RPG from Archetype Entertainment, a studio under Wizards of the Coast, and it's set roughly 40,000 years in the future. No, not Warhammer 40,000, just 40,000 years in the future nonetheless, and it revolves around a human cost of near-light travel. Travelling at the speed of light introduces relativistic speed and relativistic time, and that means you can return to a place you just left and find out that much time has passed. In essence, every time the player returns from a mission, time has moved on, far more for everyone else and for the world than the player themselves. So yeah, this means you really do get to see the long-term impacts of your missions and the actions you take and the choices you make. Combat focuses on what the developers are calling a gauntlet system, and this fuses alien abilities, alien technology, and allows you to have some very powerful abilities. This of course is paired with squad commands that let companions set up combos, as well as some coordinated attacks. Some of you may also be interested to know that this title features Matthew McConaughey. Personally, I'm particularly interested in this one, if for nothing else, to see the time dilation having the effect on the world around you. Very unusual to see this in a game. Wrath and Retribution is a space combat roguelike. It's built around quick, intense runs. Now, you command a ship equipped with an advanced propulsion system and is supported by an AI called Merlin. Your job is to push back against the remnant invasions that threaten a network of solar hubs, and that includes places like Mars and Jupiter. Missions are designed to last around 5 to 7 minutes, and permadeath means that each failure sends you back to upgrade and try again. The moment-to-moment gameplay is all about fast dogfights, and you attack enemies' warships, collect loot and improve and build your ship, and work within Merlin's abilities. Merlin's abilities, meanwhile, can also be upgraded, and that skill set can be tuned to your preferred style of play. This title then looks very heavily focused on combat. Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hope is a tactical game based on the classic sci-fi series you'll all recognise, and at the modern edition rather than the older one. Now, it takes place during the aftermath of the Cylon Uprising, with you in command of a Gunstar, and you're tasked with protecting what's left of the 12 colonies fleet. Your goal is to survive long enough to rendezvous with the Battlestar Galactica, and that means following Admiral Adama's call whilst the Cylons are still hunting you. The structure of the game mixes crisis management with battles, and between fights you juggle resources, morale and other pressures aboard the fleet, and then respond to various different crises that can force difficult choices and lasting consequences. Now, when combat arrives, you deploy Vipers, Raptors and capital ships against Cylon raiders and larger threats, and yeah, I'm very curious to see how this matches what we've seen in the TV show. The game is classed as roguelite, so I assume that's going to have an impact there, but it would be interesting to see just how much of an impact that ultimately has. Now, in Lunar Strike, you find yourself in the moon's south pole, and it's set in the year 2119. You play here a junior archivist working on a failing lunar colony where oxygen is running low and the infrastructure is starting to fall apart. The story combines hard science influences with speculative fiction, and is looking at how people react when they're isolated on a hostile world and the clock is ticking down on their survival. What's interesting here is that the gameplay is not so much about combat and appears to be more about exploration, resource management, as well as choices, and you move through realistically inspired lunar environments here, such as craters, icy deposits, and various different installations all around the moon's poles, and in doing so you scan relics and locate data whilst balancing your O2 levels as well as your other survival needs. Interactions with the game's characters is also going to be important apparently, as that will also reveal more about the colony's history and your place in it. What has some potential to make this game pretty unique is if they rely heavily on the influence of the moon itself. For example, if the moon's low gravity has an impact on things, then this could certainly weave into how you move and how you solve a variety of different problems. Okay, so far I've covered a lot of story-driven and cinematic space games. For this next one, we're going back to the slow, deliberate end of the genre, Big maps, long logistics, and a strategy game that people have been watching for years. That's Fallen Frontier. Fallen Frontier has been around in terms of information for quite a while at this point, but we're hoping that 2026 is the year it actually comes out. Now this is an RTS game, but it looks like one of the best space games for quite a while, especially if you take into account the aesthetics here, which look absolutely phenomenal. The game then is about rebuilding your empire, which means that the game is heavily focused on logistics and resources. And that means it's not necessarily about building the largest fleet. For example, a weaker force can wage guerrilla warfare by raiding depots, blocking colonies and cutting supply chains, whilst a stronger faction is going to really have to spend some time thinking about how they spread their defence flotillas intelligently, or ultimately they're going to risk sudden losses. There's a lot going on within this game then, far too much to cover in this brief extract, but I certainly recommend you checking this one out and finding as much out about it as you possibly can. I'll link a few videos in the description below so you can follow up. Now Breathedge 2 is a sequel to the game of the same name that came out a while ago, and it continues the tongue-in-cheek, retro, futuristic space survival that we've come to know from the previous title. Now you once again here return as the man, and once again you're saddled with a variety of different problems, all set in this rather dangerous and colourful area of space. The universe itself is split into multiple zones, each with their own rules, resources and exploration opportunities. Different star systems have different looks, and these are populated by a variety of different background planets, wreckage and the frozen remains of unfortunate passengers and other people who perhaps didn't make it. Once down on planets, you're going to find yourself coming under attack by a variety of different enemies, whilst when it comes to your spaceship, you'll find yourself upgrading your ship by adding a variety of different new compartments, and some of these are useful and some seem completely absurd, as you'd expect from this game. Crew management is also important here. That's a big part of survival, and each crew member contributes to life on board the ship, and that makes some of the tasks easier and also unlocks some new options for you. But they also have personal goals themselves and behaviours, and ignoring the crew, the vessel, or your responsibilities as captain can lead to mutiny or other disasters. The focus of the game then seems to be very heavily about building, crafting and staying alive in an unfriendly universe, and this is all wrapped in a lot of humour here and some complete absurdity, including some rather mature content. Next up, we come to Starseeker Astroneer Expeditions, and this follows on in the Astroneer universe as we've seen before in the first game, except here it takes on a new cooperative direction. And yes, that means it's very much about you and other players. So in Starseeker, you and other players serve as a crew aboard the ESS Starseeker. That's a space station that acts as a social hub and a mission planning centre. From there, you head out into multiple star systems to tackle planet-wide objectives, all using a variety of different tools and technology. The station itself evolves over time as capabilities are upgraded and as players use it to coordinate their explorations and hang out between their different expeditions. Information on this game is still relatively light, but Astroneer itself was a lot of fun, so I'm very curious to see where the developers go with this one. It seems to be a somewhat new and interesting twist. The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, brings a TV show and novels into a fantastic world developed by Owlcat Games. Set in the 24th century, it keeps a system-wide tension between Earth, Mars and the Belt front and centre. You play a Pinkwater security mercenary on shore leave at Eros, and when the station then goes into lockdown, you're dragged into a conspiracy that stretches across the solar system. Over the course of the story, you seize control of one of the most advanced ships around, juggle crew tensions, and make decisions that shift loyalties on Ganymede, Ceres, Mars and Lunar. Mechanically, the game appears to combine a cover-based shoot-in with the party tactics and narrative choices, and quite naturally a lot of people are making comparisons here to Mass Effect, both in principle as well as in gameplay mechanics. You direct real-time gunfires while issuing commands to up to 2 companions in the field, with additional specialists working remotely on hacking or intel. Locations range from crumbling domes to zero-G voids, and you can talk, investigate and use character skills to persuade or sabotage. Character creation lets you choose to be an Earther, a Martian or a Belter, which influences dialogue, abilities or cultural flavour. And then there's crew relationships, which can respond to your choices and can affect morale, abilities which ultimately have different endings that you may see. Now the game leans hard into branching narrative and ship-based downtime, and it uses a vessel as a hub for conversations, upgrades and planning your next move. Anyone who's played Mass Effect will be very familiar with this with the Normandy. Now developers Alcat bring a massive experience and heritage to this title thanks to their work on the Pathfinder RPG, some very good games all in all, some of the best RPGs around according to some. The game then is aiming for a personal story here, set against big picture politics, very much in the theme of Expanse overall then. And of course the game looks absolutely gorgeous from the videos and clips we've seen. EVE Vanguard drops you into the EVE universe at ground level as a war clone, one of the new generation of augmented soldiers thrown into brutal planetary combat. You wake up as part of the Vanguard, fighting for survival and eventual liberation from the people who created you. Deployments take you to hostile worlds where Capsuleer-backed factions are waging a wider war across New Eden, the universe of EVE Online. And everything you do, from scavenging equipment to wiping out rival squads, is designed to tie back into that larger conflict of both games of the EVE Online universe. Moment to moment, this game is a tactical sandbox-style FPS with a strong survival layer. You pick through wreckage for weapons and gear, harvest materials and upgrade your kit, and make choices that can affect both the mission and the long-term state of the battlefield. Gunplay leans into ballistics, cover and squad coordination, whether you're running solo or with others. Now battlefields are littered with debris from previous clashes, and those environments evolve as players fight, loot and build, making matches feel different over time. Progression is tied to gear customization, letting you lean into roles such as assault, support or recon. Now, the entire thing connects directly into EVE Online, with developers CCP positioning Vanguard as an MMO FPS, and it sits inside the wider New Eden ecosystem and feeds into the economy and politics over time. And at the end of 2025, a large-scale EVE event called Nemesis has been used as the final chance to try the current ground combat experience before EVE Vanguard launched into Steam Early Access, with a planned date of summer 2026. Stars of Icarus is a team-based PvP starship dogfighting game from Muse Games. Now the studio of this is behind Guns of Icarus Online, you may have heard of that one. It takes the crew-focused formula of the other games into space, emphasising teamwork, coordination over just flying around on your own, lone wolf flying. Players in the game form crews with friends or strangers and then head into online matches. Ships range from nimble single-seat fighters to heavier three-seat fighters. Players take on a variety of different roles. This can be piloting, manning cannons or maintaining shields and engines. All of this in a full 6 degrees of freedom. Maps are handcrafted with a mix of hard and soft cover as well, and dynamic elements like drifting asteroids. All of this adds to some tactical considerations. The game is focused on supporting 5v5 casual and competitive matches, along with some custom servers for larger or more perhaps experimental setups. So this one has a very heavy focus on PvP, and it's certainly going to be an option if you like that type of thing. I'm much anticipating many of these, very much looking forward to all of them. Let me know what you think about this list in the comments section below. And of course, if you feel I've missed any titles, do let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching this video all the way through. There is another one on the screen right here. Do take care, and I'll catch you next time.